Chapter 824. Every Man for Himself 1. Fire damage resistance of 90%. Not just for myself, either, but in an area around me. The implications of these two simple sentences were massive. I mean, think about it. No matter how high the floor was, I could practically ignore any fire-based rifts, and in the same vein, I didn't need to fear rank 1 monsters as long as they used fire-based attacks. Well, in theory, anyway, you couldn't really tell what was inside most rifts until you entered them. Thus, it was difficult to single out a rift as fire-based and hunt those in particular. Also, rank 1 monsters could only be found on the 9th and 10th floors, and our stats and builds were severely lacking to head straight there with just our belief in the orb of fire. Maybe the first underground floor's library. I suddenly recalled the place that allowed us to summon whatever we wanted, though I quickly closed that line of thought. We had just barely been able to escape from that place, and we had even had to form a contract to never return in the process. Since I had already signed the contract and paid the price, there was no guarantee on what would happen if I went back. No, wait, a conversation I had with the village chief, now Jerome Saintard, flashed through my mind. 10 to 15 years when short, and 30 or 40 years in between when long. Corpses like this fell from the sky, and I suspect that it could be related to dimensional collapses. The village chief had produced the adventurers' journals recovered from the corpses as proof of his hypothesis, and I had confirmed that they were records of adventurers who had been swept up in a dimensional collapse. There was already precedent for this. If I keep getting thrown about by the dimensional collapse, I might end up back on the first underground floor. Of course, there was no guarantee that I would end up there. That was only if I got severely unlucky. However, unlucky. Just thinking about that raised my blood pressure a bit. Badump. If I really ended up going back there, what would happen after that? Without the help of the Royal Army, our chance of survival with our current members was practically zero. Stop worrying unnecessarily. I forcibly stopped the train of thought. Rip. Over there. Another collapse is happening. That marked the end of our rest then. Everyone, stick close to me. For now, surviving to see tomorrow was the highest priority. The dimensional collapse wasn't a one-time event. Unlike what the average adventurer believed, the dimensional collapse progressed quite steadily. It would last a few days at least, lasting up to 2 weeks at most. So, this is wave 2. No one could predict how many waves a single dimensional collapse event would bring forth. 7 waves would be on the short end. I think 15 waves is the most I've seen. I was using a character who was strong enough to move around the 9th floor back then. On top of that, I was generally pretty lucky during that dimensional collapse and encountered quite a few fortunate events. However, in the end, my party was still wiped out. My highest record of waves survived was 14. That record was also made during my final playthrough. Having survived a total of 14 waves of dimensional collapse, I was able to learn and obtain a lot of things, and that became the foundation with which I was able to reach the gate of the abyss. And I was sucked into this world after that. I shouldn't have even started playing this game in the first place. Why did it have to be this game that I was obsessed with? A little too late to complain about that, don't you think? After waking up in the body of a barbarian warrior, I had experienced many things. I had gone on many adventures and defeated many more enemies. Throughout this vast labyrinth, I had uncovered many precious treasures and had lost many precious things. However, through all those experiences, not Hansu Lee but Bjorn Yandel, I came to a decision. Whether I liked it or not, I decided to live in this world filled with everything I held dear. So, Baha'u'llah, I screamed the name of the ancestral god, and swung my hammer. Crunch. In the initial phase of the collapse, there weren't enough high-ranking monsters to dissolve our battle formation. We weren't tired yet either, so the situation wasn't that dangerous. Vwong. Well, our surroundings continued to change randomly as we fought, and the arrival of entirely new monsters kept us on our toes. Still, it's been a while since I've gained experience this quickly. You have defeated Valentus Wizard. Express +5. You have defeated Valentus Knight. Express +4. You have defeated Valentus Fixer. Express +3. You have defeated Valentus Palace Knight. Express +6. You have defeated Valentus Wandering Bard. Express. The Grave Palace of Valentus. It was a rift of the 7th floor Dark Continent, which could only be entered on very slim occasions. Originally, we would have only been able to arrive here after formulating an exploration plan and attempting multiple times. I got over 200 experience in just 15 minutes. As a rift famous for its dozens of different elite monsters, we were able to accrue a ton of experience in a short period, and this repeated throughout the entire dimensional collapse event. You have defeated Ice Abomination. Express +4. You have defeated Frozen Mimic. Express +4. You have defeated Ice Core Express. These points of experience would be of great help. The higher an adventurer's level, the more exponentially difficult it became to reach the next level. All of this would be of great help to our Anabata clan. Crunch. That is, if we returned alive. To me, as we continued to crush the skulls of the ice-type monsters that appeared within the snowstorm, our surroundings changed. Once more, whoosh, we were surrounded by a sea of fire on all sides. For a moment, I wondered if we had returned to that burning forest. However, it's different. I quickly scanned the environment. Even though we were standing in the midst of fire, a few things caught my attention. A hard stone floor, tiled black, blacker than if it were just burnt from the flames. When I raised my head to look up, I saw a ceiling above us. We weren't outside. Where the hell are we now? Having discovered a few mysterious headstones within the dancing flames, I realized where we were. The Red Dragon's Heart. WHAAAT. It seemed only Raven recognized the name, so I quickly explained, it's one of the 8th floor rifts. Additionally, its guardian was a red dragon. It had dragon fear as its passive, which meant that it required a party full of at least level 9 or above adventurers to even attempt to raid it. However, we didn't need to worry about any of that. We didn't land in the boss room. Given that we're inside, it looks like we're in the passage section. Fortunately, we landed in the passage leading up to the boss room. Thus, this was around the Chapter 3 mark of the rift. And the monsters that appeared there, boom, were giants that dripped fire like sweat with every step they took. Lava giants. As a note, lava giants were rank 4 monsters, and I had technically experienced them before. Regal Vagos, the Dragon Slayer, had a lava giant's essence. With how big they are, seeing so many of them at once is enough to make one feel as if the end has come. What are you talking about? Are you scared? Not at all. Please be careful when you see steam above their heads. It means they've activated Blast Furnace. And they're immune to cold and fire damage, so don't use those. Seeing these giants, I became reminiscent of the past. Back then, I was so afraid of the Dragon Slayer. They're more manageable than I expected. They're rank 4 monsters, but they're slow. Keep your focus. To maintain formation, Aner, Kylan, and Sven Perov stood at the forefront and easily dealt with the waves of lava giants attacking us from all sides. And then, Arua Raven has cast the rank 5 attack. Magic Lightning Spear. Beleg Shucha D. Turja has cast Soul's Trumpet. Lilith Maroni has cast the rank 3 Summon Magic Rock of the Earth. All spells cast within the area are transformed into physical type. Erwin Fornaci D. Turja has. While the Vanguard maintained the battle line, the backline continued to let loose their immense firepower. You have defeated Lava Giant Express +6. The giant that was closest to us collapsed to the ground before turning into a cloud of light. Then, you have defeated Lava Giant. You have defeated. The other lava giants followed suit. This was the expected outcome. I mean, with our current build, rank 4s were a piece of cake. All fire damage within 15 meters is reduced by 90%, and I even had the Orb of Fire. It was as if the lava giants' fire-type abilities were completely nullified. Well, the punches they were throwing were still doing pure physical damage. Slow, too slow, Fenelon, please calm down. If you jump around like that, Behallah. But with how slow they were, even Aner could dodge them while in her excited state. I guess not all of them. Smack. As soon as I had that thought, Aner ate a punch to her side. Fenelon. I'm fine. But thanks to how tough she was, she continued to fight while ignoring such incidental hits. I guess this is our easy round. Having been on high alert the entire time because of the environment changes, I decided to change my strategy. Maybe this would have been different if I didn't have my cheat-like evolved Orb of Fire, but since I had it, the Red Dragon's Heart could be soloed by me in my current state. With that, there was only one thing we had to do. Save as much strength as possible and focus on recovering. We had to spare as much stamina as we could before the next wave of the dimensional collapse. As we continued to fight with a bit more relaxed tone, Badump, my heart of the warrior detected the change first. What is it? My head belatedly moved to look for the reason for the reaction. I quickly scanned the area for any detail. A miss. Bang. Oohaha. Did you think I'd get hit by that? I became hyper-focused, not letting even a single whisper evade me. However, what is it? I couldn't find anything. There were no changes I could see, even as I looked around. So, why? Badump. Why did I feel so uneasy? Maybe the feeling wasn't nervousness at all, but paranoia that I misinterpreted as such. I desperately hoped that my mental State was what was wrong, but despite my desires, I still steadily finished my preparation. I mean, this primal warrior's body had saved my life countless times. Although I had no idea what it was screaming about in the moment. Stop the fight. Better safe than sorry. Gather to me. As I was trying to give that command, my body froze. It didn't take long for me to realize what had caused it. I recognized what this was. Character has entered the range of dragon fear. This gap in power. Character is petrified for 10 seconds. Just like when I encountered that bone dragon with Becco Lee's party when I was out and about outside the city walls. A chilling fear climbed all the way up to my skull before freezing my body. With my body frozen, I could only barely move my eyes to look toward the dancing flames, and there, I saw a gargantuan figure moving through the fire. Red dragon. This was a creature that should have quietly stayed in its boss room, never to be encountered in the passage. Why the hell is it here? I couldn't help but groan, but I held back. The flood of questions battering my mind. Who cared about the reason? The important thing was that it was here, standing before us. Dragon. Chapter 825. Every man for himself too. Badump. I ignored my pounding heart and focused on counting the seconds. Boom. When that huge dragon bastard revealed itself from beyond the wall of fire and entered into our field of vision. 7 seconds. Not even 3 seconds had passed. We needed to survive 7 more seconds before the petrification wore off, and from my calculations, that was more than enough time for that peak rank 1 dragon to butcher all the members of my lovingly nurtured Anabata clan. What do I do? What did I need to do to stop that dragon from blasting all my friends? The crossroad of survival. With my utmost focus on the task at hand, my brain continued to mull that question over and over. My body, Erwin, Misha, and the others were still affected by petrification. It was natural, of course, as no one from our expedition group had reached level 9 yet. I expected as much for Raven, and it looks like Parav isn't considered level 9 feet yet. We were all standing there like stone statues. What was the way out of this draconic mess? I felt suffocated and frustrated by the lack of an answer. Yandel. But at that moment, I saw from the corner of my vision the form of Amelia walking toward me. Given the scrunched up expression on her face, it seemed she was feeling mighty uncomfortable somewhere on her body. She can move. That surprised me. Amelia was still level 8. Just like me. Well, I was an early level 8 while she was a late level 8. I suddenly realized something. What if her experience bar, which was nearly full before all this, finally tipped over to the next level due to all the fighting during the dimensional collapse? And what if she did reach level 9 but wasn't able to find the time to tell me because we were busy fighting? This works. Although this was a variable I hadn't planned for, it became our escape route. Emily, we're retreating. Take the members and move over that side. I ordered. What? She asked. What do you mean, what? Although it was correct to stay in one place and fight off the waves when in a dimensional collapse, there were times when you needed to run when an undefeatable enemy appeared. I had already told everyone about this point as well. My telling her that probably made her remember. Got it. You can move me last, so move the others first. With that, Amelia dashed like lightning and moved the members out of the tiled room. Well, to be precise. Flick. She grabbed them by the scruff of their necks and threw them away like one would a bag full of luggage. She went with the ones closest to her first. Erwin, Aoyan, Misha, Maroni, Raven, and even Erwin's uncle Beleg. After tossing them to the side, just as she went to grab the guild master by his collar as well. Whoosh. An extreme wave of heat, distinguishable even through the burning flames, erupted toward us. Red Dragon has cast Fire Breath, an AoE ability that all dragons had, and one that was nearly guaranteed to insta-kill anything. However, this wasn't the worst possible outcome. I can tank it, maybe not under normal circumstances, but I now had the Orb of Fire. Even with the 90% damage resistance, I would have died if I were a wizard or a rogue, but as a tank, this was bearable. FWIP. The guild master was, thankfully, moved out of the way just in time as well, and Amelia instinctively stuck herself flat right behind my back to hide. Character has cast Jauntization. Character has cast Iron Fortress. Character has cast Scales of Greed. Just as I activated my abilities, the fearsome firestorm crashed and rushed around my body. All fire damage is decreased by 90% in a 15 meters area. Even with that, I felt the pain of my flesh melting off my body. However, this was a positive sign. If my entire body had melted, I wouldn't have been able to feel the pain at all. Creak. Well, my bones still throbbed and my organs felt cooked. Condition of Dragon Claw has been fulfilled. You take physical damage equal to magical damage taken. This damned hybrid damage. Still, I was thankful that the physical damage was calculated from the 90% resisted. Magic damage. Whoosh. In any case, the flames that I thought would rage on forever finally began to calm down. Emily, are you alright? I asked. I can still move. It seemed she still got hurt even though she was standing behind me. From the way she said that, I could tell that she was probably severely injured. Petrification has worn off. I was worried for Amelia, but the moment my petrification was released, I dashed forward. The remaining members of the clan were still there in critical condition. Thanks to the 90% reduction in the damage. None died due to the breath attack, but they were all only alive by the skin of their teeth. ROAAAR. However, it seemed that the fact that no one died had pissed off the red dragon. It let out a monstrous roar. And then, growl. It swiftly turned its head toward my allies. While they were still trying to catch their bearing, its first target seemed to be Sven Perev. Thankfully, I didn't miss the opening. The moment its huge maw went to swallow Sven Perev whole, I arrived and wedged my shield in between its teeth. Clang. Grr. The fact that it couldn't close its mouth due to a single piece of metal surprised the dragon. Don't look down on the indestructible trait. Perev, are you alright? Sven Perev seemed on the verge of passing out as he looked directly at the sharp fangs lining up the open jaw in front of him. As I was wondering what I should do, Amelia quickly dashed in from behind and grabbed him. Then, stop tensing up. You're heavy. Reigns. Didn't you hear me? Relax. She dragged Sven Perev away to the ones she had previously thrown aside. Creak, creak. The dragon continued to flex its jaw to try and bite down on this indestructible shield. I hoped that it would at least keep this up while we got Aner and Kylan out. ROAAAR. With that frightening roar echoing around me, I felt as if gravity had flipped upside down. It didn't take a genius to figure out what was happening. Enraged at the fact that it couldn't break my shield, the dragon had raised its head with the shield while I was still holding onto it. ROAAAR. Of course, I didn't mind how long it tried to throw a tantrum while biting and clawing at me. However, the situation I was in was a bigger problem. RIP. We were still under the field effect of dimensional collapse, where invisible barriers could separate us at any moment if we made the wrong step forward. That meant, unlike the monsters, we were practically trapped in glass boxes. So, what would happen if I were to be flung straight out of the box like a toy being tossed aside? The answer was exceedingly simple. Flash. With a flash of light, I appeared in a whole new world. When the blinding light finally faded away, the first thing I noticed was the azure sea. No, to be precise, I was about a few hundred meters above that sea. Whoosh. I was falling from the sky. For about, 4 seconds. Flash. Even while falling, another flash of light blinded me and teleported me somewhere else. The sky darkened, then brightened, then cliffs appeared to either side of me, before green woods entered my vision. Vwong. Once, I was flung back upward as if the rules of physics had been reversed. This repeated for a while. Bang. In the end, I landed in the middle of a desert with hot, dry winds blowing all around me. Even though I shouldn't have fallen more than 5 meters, due to the acceleration I had built up during all the teleporting, I fell like a meteor into the middle of the sandy desert and created a crater. Thankfully, the fact that I landed on sand helped to disperse the impact. However, I hated how the sand seeped in through the cracks of my armor and mixed with my sweat. Well, maybe that wasn't the real reason for my frustration. I was speechless. A level of anger uncategorizable by a single word bloomed from within me, and I wanted just to take a moment to lie back and chill out. However, that damn dragon, maybe this was what those enemies felt. When I ran the Eye of the Storm and Transcendence combo, I never expected to be separated from my allies in this way. I forced those thoughts of weakness out of my mind and stood up to stare at the sky. I barely held back a sigh, but that didn't mean that I was accepting of the situation. I didn't even know where to begin thinking about trying to find my way back to them. During a collapse, the labyrinth was like those formations you saw in martial arts manhwas, the ones where an illusory formation made navigation impossible, but a single path existed for those who knew. That was why the retreat strategy from before even had a chance of working. If everyone moved through the same boundary, there was a high chance that we would all be moved to the same field. However, how can I get back in this situation? I didn't put too much effort into trying to solve that question. There was no chance of finding a path through the impossible, no matter how much more thought I put into it. I just prayed that the others were safe and calmly scanned my surroundings. It was a vast desert with no end in sight. In the distance, as if having sensed an intruder, construct-type monsters rose from beneath the sands. Cannon Golem. Rank 7. Due to this, it was quite easy to figure out where I was. Character has entered a special area. Field effect gun desert is applied. Piercing damage of all ranged weapons is increased by 1000%. Gun desert. It was one of the rifts that was possible to encounter on the second floor rock desert. Boom. As if firing cannonballs, the cannon golems fired shots of mana, which became a signal to call the other monsters to my location. Kobolds, sandmen, and so on. They were monsters you could find in the rock desert as well. However, there was one major difference in this field. Every single one of them had a random, crude firearm they seemed to have picked up from somewhere. But in the end, they were still just rank 7 monsters. You have defeated Cannon Golem. Express +3. You have defeated Kobold Gunner. Express +2. You have defeated Waste Sandman. It didn't take long for me to kill all of them. It was all experience points I had missed out on during the first underground floor. Solo rifts, as those only had the guardians in them. After dealing with all the monsters, my mind was once again swarmed by thoughts. What happened to the ones who retreated before the dragon breath was fired? Would they have been able to regroup in the same place? What about Amelia and Aner, who were the last to go? Were they safe? No, even if they escaped from that place alive, would I be able to reunite with them in the city after the dimensional collapse ended? And so, as my questions began to ask more questions, I suddenly heard a scream from behind me. As I quickly turned my head to see what it was, I saw an unfamiliar man fall out of the sky. After rolling on the sand for a second, he quickly grabbed his weapon before springing straight up into a guard stance. Hike. When he saw me in my jauntization state, he screamed before taking a step back. Although we hadn't said anything yet, I got a sense of what had just happened to him. He got separated. I didn't feel any sympathy for him. Rather, it only woke me up to the reality of my own situation. I'm separated. B. Baron Yandel. When the man belatedly recognized me, I asked him just one question. What's your name? I demanded. M. Maze Raynor. Alright, so he wasn't a Hans. I moved him up to the second interview. What are you good at? Even if he was separated from his group, he was still definitely an adventurer. He flinched once at my random question, but seemed to quickly piece together my reason and gave a passionate response. I'm confident in everything but combat. Although my combat capabilities could be considered lacking since they are around rank 5, I have never once been told off for not carrying my own weight. From this moment on, I will do everything you ask of me without hesitation. Lord Baron, please, just take me with you. So he was at least quick-witted. But let's get the important thing out of the way first. It's Viscount Yandel, Chapter 826, Every Man for Himself 3. Maze Raynor. Surprisingly enough, he was a high-quality reinforcement who had received a designation of rank 3 by the guild. Although his combat capabilities were abysmally low compared to his supposed rank, that actually bumped him up in my books a few more notches. It was proof of how excellent he was in other fields by comparison. And he's only 33 years old as well. A rank 3 adventurer at the age of 33. Even if he wasn't part of a large and famed clan, he was still the vice-captain of a mid-sized one. A little odd that he said so himself. But in any case, there was no denying that he was an elite unit. This labyrinth had only been open to the best of the best, after all. Even if we disregarded all of that, the fact that he survived one day into the dimensional collapse was proof enough. Alright, I think that concludes my analysis of him. I was sitting cross-legged to look him level in his eyes, but I slowly stood back up. Alright, let's get moving, I stated. Pardon, where? He asked. Did I not tell him? To find my allies. Although I gave a concise explanation, he still seemed utterly confused. I'm planning on just searching every nook and cranny of the labyrinth. He remained silent. Any problems? Is that so? Why, your allies must be so glad. Having such a reliable captain as you, Viscount. What was he going on about now? It was obvious that he was contemplating running away from me. That's what we'll be doing, so get on. What? Get on. I thought he was a serious and assertive guy, so why was he so hesitant now? Well, he already said he'd do everything I told him to do, so I shouldn't even be asking his permission in the first place. I grabbed him by his collar and lifted him onto my shoulder, and thus, in my barbarian tank mode, hold tightly, consider yourself dead if you fall off. We set off. Snowy fields and grassy plains. Boom. Deep ravines and estuaries. Boom. Mystical forests and burning lands. Boom. A cave with flowing lava. It didn't really matter what terrain we were moving on since we only stayed there for a few seconds each time. Baha'u'llah. Currently, I was running through the labyrinth. Boom. Every time my foot touched the ground, a heavy thud echoed out. Growl. Against the uncountable wave of monsters, I raised my shield and slammed through. Naturally, the monsters didn't let this slide. Having practically taken up the job of killing every single adventurer inside the labyrinth, the monsters didn't hesitate for even a second and began to attack us. Demonic Archer has cast Baptism of the Moon. Arrows flew past us. Ice Ghost has cast Frost Spear. Icy spears struck us. Curses fell. Sparks flew, and MP was drained. Wah! Only Raynor's screams while he was riding on my shoulder were evidence of how reckless this plan was. Hold on, I called. If that was a little closer, my head would have. I know, so just hold on. I was certain of it. This is the best method. Do you really need to find your allies this badly? He probably crossed the line when he said that, but I just smirked. The reason I was doing all this wasn't simply to find my allies. I mean, I was a tank. It took quite a long time to kill even a single rank 4 monster, so as the waves continued, it couldn't be helped that the monsters would continue to stack. If I stayed still, I would just end up smothered and dead. Just like a shark, I ran with the belief that I would die the moment I stopped. This was the only way to survive. I suppose the one silver lining was that I wasn't alone. I was lucky enough to find a pretty reliable companion. Maze Raynor has cast Light and Load. All negative effects applied to the character are transferred to Maze Raynor. Although it was a little different from the priests, Purify and Wizard's Dispel Curse, all of the debuffs that had been stacked on me disappeared instantly. Also, Maze Raynor has cast Devour Negativity. All negative effects have their duration reduced based on the spirit stat. Greatly restore soul power and health whenever a negative status effect is lifted. The debuffs that were transferred to him would be converted to MP and HP. Maze Raynor has cast Blood Transfusion, and he would provide that HP right back to me. Maze Raynor was an incredibly built ability user, and a very rare support type, at that. His essence rank is low, but the synergy is good. Adventurers should model themselves after this guy. High-ranking essences didn't always mean they were better, and his fighting capabilities are still that of a rank 5 on top of all this. He told me he had a bow-related skill he could use to support me in a battle if necessary. I suddenly became curious to see how he fought. Clench. Stop your useless thoughts there. Whoosh. I swung my demon grinder with all my might. Rather than attacking weak points to kill them, it was more like I was using brute force to push them away. Clang. When a small opening was created from this, I would once again raise my shield and charge through. And so, when the world flashed white in, a new area appeared once more. Finally, someone else. I discovered the second survivor. The second survivor was a man as well. He seemed to be around 40 years old. A sole survivor, surrounded by a mound of corpses within a translucent barrier. The old man had his eyes closed as if he had given up. However, it seemed closing his eyes didn't help with the fear he was feeling. Boom, 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 screech. Whenever the monsters around the box slammed into the barrier while screeching, I saw the man flinch and shiver. So, he's the last one alive. This man's situation was a little different from Raynor's. Unlike Raynor, who was separated from his group during the dimensional collapse, this man was with his allies until the end. The number of corpses around him was evidence that he was the last one standing. The barrier looks like it'll break in the next minute. When that happened, the man would go to where his allies were. That was what would have happened if I weren't there. A wizard. This was a great find. He could be pretty useful if I carried him around on my shoulder. Was the thought I would have had if I had been a heartless bastard who couldn't understand what the wizard was feeling. Will he be in the right state of mind? Although I worried for a moment, I decided that the man probably wasn't in the worst mental situation he could be in. Even if he was the last one alive, he was still fighting to survive. He hadn't let go of his life yet. With that in mind, Bahallah, I let out a grand roar, and the man within the barrier opened his eyes in surprise. After he got over the shock of having discovered me, I saw hope settle in his eyes. However, we didn't have time to talk, considering the dozens of monsters gathered around the barrier. Time the barrier so that I can come in. After saying that, I pushed past the monsters and ran toward the barrier. Vwong. Just before I made contact with it, the barrier was undone. I was honestly a little worried he'd miss the timing with how shocked he looked. Looks like you can still understand me. Are you here to save me? Why else would I be there? Whatever. Get on. As if uprooting a carrot, I grabbed the man by the back of his shirt and put him on my other shoulder. Then, I'll hear what you're good at while moving. Before the monsters could surround us even more, I quickly pushed past them and left the area. The next field we arrived at was a little better. It was on a lower floor, and due to no survivors being here, there weren't that many monsters either. And so, crunch, I casually crushed the skulls of the charging low-ranking monsters and caught our breath. Are you, perhaps, the Viscount Yandel? Yeah, so start talking. Talking. What do you mean? He wasn't as quick-witted as Raynor was. I could tell he was of a lower quality. Well, he did just lose all of his allies and was on the verge of death as well. I decided to go a little easier on him and kindly asked, a little more verbosely, I don't need your age or your name. Your rank, school, specialty, and also tell me if you have any good tricks up your sleeve. When I described the information he needed to provide to join me in my barbarian tank mode, the wizard quickly understood the situation and gave a quick briefing as to who he was. In summary, a rank 3 wizard of the Sparese school, famous for their space magic. He specialized in barriers and teleportation. Magic. Wait, if you're from the Sparese school, I used dimensional door when I was in the military, so I can't use it anymore, he clarified. I see. I wasn't particularly let down by this. Since the dimensional collapse had begun, you couldn't use dimensional door even if you wanted to. Anyway, tell me if you have an ultimate move or something. Don't try to hide it. I can send even rank 2 monsters far away, if they aren't especially resistant to magic, that is. Using space magic to instantly teleport away a difficult to fight monster. Usually, it would have only sent them about 30 meters away, but in our current situation, with the dimensional collapse still ongoing, we could get them completely out of sight. This might be useful. I am 43 years old. Name, Elvane Cutter. I will be in your care from now on. I told you I didn't need your name or age. I smirked before confirming one last thing. So, are you all right? What do you mean? The wizard asked, completely clueless. I asked once more with a careful tone. Those bodies around you, weren't they your allies? It was a roundabout way of speaking, completely unlike how a barbarian would talk. However, in the end, there was no need for any of that. I am only regretful. Don't be. It wasn't your fault. I don't know how I ended up entering the labyrinth with trash like them. What a stupid mistake. Everyone practically begged me to join the expedition, so I let them, but they couldn't even protect me from monsters of that level. I even went out of my way to defeat commoners nearly got me killed. The high-ranking monsters, those lowly, I became speechless at the complete reversal in the situation. He called those who died to protect him trash. Still, the one good thing from this was that I could be sure this wizard wouldn't suddenly get depressed and give up. Compared to them, you are so virtuous and dependable, Viscount Yandel. Foo-foo, I'll be sure not to let you down. But this still left a bitter taste in my mouth. Should I just abandon him? This really felt like the unsettling calm before the storm. Elvane Cutter was a clear-cut and brazen high-ranking elitist wizard. As a blue-blooded noble like you, Viscount 1. Yandel, you must have noticed it. But my uncle is Baron Cutter, he explained. I see. Who the hell was that? The house of Baron Cutter. Maybe I heard about it once when I was studying about the noble houses in the past. I did wonder why he went out of his way to tell me his name. So this was what he wanted to use that for. And my eldest sister made marriage vows to a family member of the master of the Sparese school. I remained silent. And even more. My second eldest sister is in talks of being engaged to Baron Vavnin. Just what was this guy's deal? We were in a relatively safe space, I'd give him that, but he was still using this opportunity of all time to boast about his family connections. I was dumbfounded, and I just decided to, play along for now, Yeah, you are pretty special. If I were a teacher, I definitely would have put this guy in the special class. Foo-foo, I knew that you would recognize my worth, Viscount Yandel. But still, how moving to hear it from you. I said nothing. From what I can see, it seems you are in a similar predicament to me. From now on, I, Elvane Cutter, will put my life on the line to support you to the best of my abilities. The way he said that pissed me off for some reason, but I decided to think positively. I mean, with how delusional he was, it also gave me certainty that he would follow every command I gave him to the T. Well, not from anyone else, it seemed. I am Maze Raynor, a rank 3 adventurer in the same predicament as you. I'll be in your care. Raynor introduced himself. Are you a noble? I don't think I've heard of a house Raynor. No, my father runs a leatherworking shop in Camelby, the family of a craftsman. Then how could you say that we're in similar situations? You're even a rank 3 feet adventurer. Don't you know that it's common sense that a wizard's rank is considered one higher when compared to yours? Well, it was true that a rank 3 wizard was much more valuable than the average rank 3 adventurer. I hope you can call me Sir Cutter, when you refer to me in the future. Maybe I really should just abandon him. Here, chapter 827, Every Man for Himself 4. Even after picking up the special wizard Elvain Cutter, our situation didn't change that much. Baha'u'llah, I continued to charge through the monsters and teleport around the maps. The only slight change was that the journey became a little easier compared to when I only had Raynor with me. Firstly, I was able to apply a new companionship spell. Elvain Cutter has cast the rank 4 space Magic Blessing of Distortion. Dodge Med is applied to the character. Many abilities and attacks of the monsters missed me. Elvain Cutter has cast the rank 3 space Magic Escape route. When there were too many monsters to deal with, he would create a magic door on the other side for us to escape with. He's pretty good. One's personality and level of skill usually weren't proportional to each other. Honestly, there were too many cases where the most skilled and powerful individuals had the worst personalities. This was a brutal world where one wrong word could have you splattered across the labyrinth walls. The fact that he was still alive with that terrible mindset of his was just proof of his skill. Anyway, that wasn't too important. Thud, my giant footsteps continued to echo as I rushed through the collapsing labyrinth. With that, I repeated the same scenes over and over. Just like when I picked up Raynor. And the special wizard, what are you good at? Stealth, assassination, poisons. I use a dagger as my main weapon, and I'm a rank 3 adventurer. TCH, a thief. He wouldn't be of much help in our current situation. He would just end up getting carried by me. Still, his rank was pretty high, so there probably would come a time when he could show his use. Get on. With that, I brought him along. Why yes, as expected of a thief, he was quick on the uptake, and the smooth introduction led him to land naturally on my shoulder. More time passed. I see someone. We picked up our 4th rider not long after the 3rd, a woman this time. She was wearing pretty interesting clothing, a white cape with the edges a little burnt off, and the only thing she was holding was a small stringed instrument, like a harp. You use an instrument as a weapon. What are you? Ah, I serve Lord Heindel. What, a priest? This was a crazy pickup. Since she was using an instrument, didn't this mean she was part of the 3 gods choir? An incredibly precious individual, in the top 0.1% of priests, even. Get on. Pardon, Kya. I quickly picked her up before someone else came to scout her. With the addition of the choir member, my Barbarian tank mode stability entered a whole new level. Maria Sher-Lloyd has cast Moon's Melody. As long as the melody continues to play, all resources consumed by characters within the area are halved. She could use one of the top 5 strongest holy spells within Dungeon and Stone. Maria Sher-Lloyd has cast Full Moon Wolf. As long as the melody continues to play, all characters within the range have their mental stats greatly boosted, and all negative status effects have their durations greatly reduced. She also had great synergy with our support type ability user, Raynor, as well. Thanks to that, we could move much faster. And more safely. However, as if to say that my luck had run out, we didn't find another survivor after the 4th one. Thus, creak, the 2nd wave came to an end. Clack, the loosely thrown pebble rolled on the ground. It was the signal for the arrival of the stable. Period after the end of the chaotic 2nd wave. Well, that didn't mean we were in a totally safe area with no monsters, but at least for the next 8 hours, we didn't need to worry about being swept up in the dimensional collapse. As the reality of our safety washed over us, our tense muscles finally loosened. We're alive. I thank you, Viscount Yandel. Truly, I will never forget this debt for the rest of my life. My 4 passengers fell back onto their butts on the ground. Of course, the calm silence didn't last long. So, what do we do now? The priestess spoke first. Could I ask your name? I asked. I am the humble servant of Lord Heindel, Maria Sher-Lloyd. Lloyd. I didn't have time to ask her name since she had been singing all this time, and the freeloader thief had stayed quiet to not bring attention to himself. After belatedly realizing that I had committed a huge mistake, I quickly asked the thief for his name as well. More importantly, what's your name? I am Creed Ellen. Phew, so he wasn't a Hans. The thief looked confused at seeing me so relieved by his answer, but I didn't care. I am Elvain Cutter. My uncle is Baron Cutter. Welcome, Miss Lloyd. No, could I just call you Lloyd? Sure, I don't mind. Foo-foo, then you may call me Elvain freely as well. Since he was being much more friendly with her than with Raynor, maybe he respected the cloth. Or maybe he's just acting like that because she's pretty. I couldn't be sure, but Lloyd completely ignored the special wizard's courting and went straight back to the point. More importantly, shouldn't we discuss what we'll do going forward? She asked. What is there to discuss? We have already been saved, Elvain stated. Already. Saved. That's right. We have practically been saved the moment we each met Viscount Yandel. Well, it's certain that this all was due to Lord Heindel's protection, but shouldn't we still make a plan? Aha. So my point was that there is nothing we need to plan for anymore. Am I wrong? We've all seen it. We just need to continue charging as we have done. Well, Elvain's words weren't baseless either. By using the running plan, we hadn't encountered any great danger yet. Since the synergy between the passengers, other than the thief, was pretty good as well, we were well protected. However, we don't have space to carry any more people. At most, it'd be just one or two more. As expected of a religious individual, Aloyd put more importance on rescuing others, and the special wizard with his elitist mindset couldn't understand her at all. Why do we need to carry them? He asked. She was stunned silent. We can just leave them behind. It was a very simplistic mindset, where, since space was a problem in carrying more people with us, we just needed to not take any more people. From that point on, the eyes of the priestess turned cold whenever she looked at the special wizard. I could tell that she was wary of him from the moment he tried to act friendly with her, but this seemed to have given her certainty. However, perhaps he recognized this as well. Of course, we'll have to take those who are as important as you. If we don't have the space, we'll have to make some. The special wizard continued to spew his special words as he glanced in a particular direction. Quote. Could I ask why you're looking at me? Creed asked. Ahem. Don't worry about it. The thief was flabbergasted at how brazen the wizard was being, but he also understood he was getting carried, so he spared his words. No one spoke with the special wizard for a while. Naturally, the topic of conversation shifted to me. Who cares what he thinks? The one who makes the final decision is you, Viscount Yandel. I am interested in hearing your ideas. I hesitated for a moment, but in the end, I decided to honestly share the plan with the others. After getting enough people together, I'll stop the running plan. Ah, moonlight protects. Aloyd let out a word of prayer, seemingly taking that I made this decision to save more people. However, the special wizard couldn't understand this. Putting yourself in danger just to help those you don't know. You were quite odd. A shameless thing to say for someone who forgot that he himself was saved. However, maybe because he was so consistent in his stupid position, I didn't feel any anger or any negative emotion toward him. It was more like, yeah, he's special. I kindly explained the reasoning to him. This is the logical decision to make. No matter what the priestess thought, I put my survival over saving others. That was why continuing with our previous plan was far too dangerous. Pardon, I don't understand what you mean. Do you remember how many times we've moved between the floors? Haha, I joined in the middle, so I don't know either. He fell silent, but I know it's over 1,000 times. From the first floor to the 10th floor, all those hidden fields and rifts. In one day, we had charged all throughout the labyrinth. This was an exceedingly dangerous thing to do. Although there aren't that many, there are a few dangerous parts of the labyrinth where just entering them could kill us instantly. One of the rifts on the 8th floor, 3 on the 9th floor, lava pond, edge of the world, and origin of dreams. On the 10th floor, there were 5 areas. Of course, these fields didn't literally kill a person instantly just by entering them, but if we weren't prepared, it was practically game over if we landed in one of those 9 places. There was also that special field called Hell, and even that place on the 10th floor. In that final hurdle before the gate of the abyss, there were tiles that could induce instant death. It was a trap where, no matter how prepared you were, you would die the moment you stepped on it. I had experienced this myself. When the dimensional collapse happened, I had abandoned my team members and used a similar method to what I was using this time, just to save my main character. But in the end, I stepped on the instant death tile during the 3rd wave and got a hollow game over. There was only one thing we could do from this point. We had no other choice today, and that's why we risked it, but our best method to survive the collapse is to gather as many people as possible and hold on, I explained. The best outcome from this would be to reunite with my clan members. It makes sense when you put it like that. I understand. We will also become a ray of hope to those adventurers in despair. I will follow you no matter what we do. Thankfully, my passengers were all eager to agree with me. Well, the thief still didn't say anything. But he had no right to talk while being carried anyway, so I didn't pay him any mind. With that, our plans for the future were settled. As for the next pressing matter, whoosh, the ball of light summoned by the wizard could only light a 5-meter area around it due to the suffocating darkness we were currently surrounded by. Ordinary dirt and gravel covered the ground. I don't see anything special. I had scanned the area while talking with the others and thought deeply about it, but nothing came to mind. With that, I decided to just honestly ask the group, does anyone have an idea as to where we could be? Just where the hell were we? Chapter 828. Every man for himself 5. At first, I didn't think it was a big deal. Countless areas of the labyrinth were shrouded in darkness. Due to the lack of any discernible features, I couldn't guarantee where we were on the map, but I was sure that I could figure it out after looking around a little longer. However, the reality was, I have no idea. Even after having walked a fair distance from our landing point, I couldn't figure out where we were. There were no monsters around to act as clues, and the terrain hadn't changed at all. Of course, even if a monster were to appear, I had no way of knowing if it was native to the area or if it had been swept up in the dimensional collapse as well. As I slowly continued to explore the area, I found myself even more confused. The fact that there was nothing special here was what made this place so special. The ground is still just flat with dirt. Although I had a few places in mind, I couldn't narrow it down to any single one of them with certainty. However, I believed there was a high likelihood that this wasn't one of the lower floors. I've personally explored all the areas on the 7th floor and below. Then where the hell were we? Just then, Elvain gave his uninvited opinion. Well, it doesn't seem like there's any danger here, so how about we take a break? I furrowed my brows. That seemed logically sound, but we were adventurers. We discovered and defeated monsters to become stronger. Even when considering the last blank period, if I hadn't walked around the burning forest to ultimately discover the Orb of Fire upgrade, we all would have died to the Red Dragon. Most importantly, this has piqued my curiosity. To be honest, my sense of curiosity as a gamer was one of the main driving factors. Just where were we? Perhaps, like those survivors I saw in the burning forest, this was a place I could discover an unknown mystery of the labyrinth. Naturally, I didn't say all that out loud. We still need to scout the area. There could be others who are spending their safe moments here, just like us. After I gave that reasonable response, no one else spoke up. However, it seemed that Elvain found the silent walk to be too boring, and he brought up a new topic of conversation. But isn't it quite odd? He asked. What is it now? The dimensional collapse. No matter how I think about it, it's too suspicious. Get to the point. Quote. As I raised my voice a little in frustration, the special wizard flinched before speaking much more quickly. Distortion phenomenon, he said. 2. Put it simply, it involves the existence of invisible barriers everywhere during the collapse. Regardless of what you see beyond them, the moment you walk through those barriers, you arrive in a completely different area. For simplicity's sake, I will refer to them as dimension walls from now on. I get it, so get on with it, I interrupted. Ahem, the reason we were able to lose those monsters while continuously moving was because the monsters weren't able to follow us through the dimension walls. So, isn't that contradictory to other things we've seen? When an area collapses and the world changes around us, the monsters we are fighting are transported with us. So, why can't they cross the dimension walls as well? He wasn't speaking complete nonsense. I had actually been looking forward to hitting him over the head if he'd said something actually stupid. Well, I guess that is weird. When it was just a game, I thought of it as just that. Now that it was reality, I didn't have the time to ponder these things. However, as expected of a wizard, this guy had a different outlook. He continued, Arsperi's school researches all physical phenomena of the labyrinth, including space, magic. Just looking at its structure alone, the labyrinth, quote, is like a huge space. Magical, keep it short so I can understand. Maybe the determining factor is being an adventurer. To be precise, being someone who came from the outer world. Like us, I asked. That's right. Unlike what the average person thinks, a dimensional collapse doesn't mean the entire labyrinth is collapsing, it's just the collapse of the space around us. It's as if the labyrinth is trying to drive out the invaders within it. Although this theory didn't have any proof to back it up, that last note of his caught my attention. It was as if the labyrinth was trying to drive out the invaders within it. I had a feeling that Arta had said something similar when he talked about the collapse. Then is the reason the monsters get transported with us just because they were close in proximity to us? The priestess asked, somewhat interested. Aha, that's right. Elvain's face brightened, as he gave a big nod. However, the priestess sounded very uncertain. Then what about that? You were able to use magic to send the monsters beyond the dimensional wall. Quote. Ah, I've thought about that as well, but that's a different case. For example, even if I throw a fireball at the dimension wall, it can't pass through it. This is something similar. The space magic that is cast is itself affected by the dimension wall, so the monster, the target of that spell, is affected by the same rules. The priestess furrowed her brow in confusion. However, it seemed her priestly intelligence wasn't enough to debate the wizard's theories. Then if something like this exists, shouldn't it have been researched already and known by everyone? Ahem. This is something that can only be found out by personally surviving a dimensional collapse. How many wizards do you think have survived these collapses? He blustered. There should be quite a few. The wizards who are prone to exploring. The labyrinth usually aren't as interested in research. They're only focused on making balls of fire grow bigger and faster. Do you think they'd try to understand such phenomena? Elvain seemed to insinuate that he was able to discover this because he was a great person, but I didn't agree with him. It's clear the royal house had a hand in this. It was clear that the palace was behind the dimensional collapses. Would they, who burned through adventurers at every opportunity, just sit back and watch as people developed research into the dimensional collapse? I had a feeling they probably would have nipped such a thing in the bud. And in that case, Fufu, if I can just return to the city, I will conduct some proper research. If the research can progress to the point of publishing a theory, the entire academic world will tremble. Elvain probably didn't have long to live. Even if he returned to the city alive, he would probably be visited by a few scary men before he could complete his swoop. The step that I had carelessly taken ended up sucking my leg straight down, as if I had stepped on a puddle of mud. I couldn't tell exactly what it was, but I could instinctively feel something was very wrong. Character has entered the range of Saturnus. Your earth resistance is decreased proportionally to your distance from the caster. You can't move. With the disgusting sensation of something grabbing me from beneath the earth, I realized where we were. The 9th, Tomb of Stars, ancient stone plains. To be precise, the hidden field you could enter after walking through the spirit gate, eternal hole, the place where the rank 1 monster, primordial spirit, appeared. What an unbelievably troublesome place. I couldn't help but sneer, but there was nothing else to be done. Battle formations. We just had to win. It didn't even take a moment before the passengers realized the predicament we found ourselves in. My leg. What is this? It's as if someone is dragging me down. Due to the immobility debuff, it felt as if our feet were stuck straight to the ground. But that wasn't all. The ground is moving. Saturnus was a skill that caused all targets within an area to stop moving before slowly dragging them toward the center. Naturally, the primordial spirit would be waiting for us in the center with its mouth wide open, ready to swallow us. Viscount. What's going on? Everyone was sure that they were in serious trouble, but no one knew for sure what was happening. However, before I began my explanation, there was something I needed to check first. Elvain Cutter, how long will it take for you to cast mass teleport right now? I demanded. It depends on the distance. You need to tell me how far you want me to. From what I knew, the range of Saturnus was around half a mile. It would continue to slowly pull us toward the center in an arc, like a meteor caught by a planet's gravity. Half mile. No, let's give us some room. Try for a mile. Oh, that's shorter than what I thought. If it's only that much. I cut him off. You won't be able to draw the magic circle on the ground. What? Then I'll need to draw it in the air. It'll take a bit more time. He exclaimed. Give me a number. I need to know exactly how long it'll take. 10 minutes. Just give me 10 minutes. 10 minutes. I can't do it any faster than that. Elvain gave that response because he thought I had a problem with it, but it was the opposite. 10 minutes was much shorter than my expectations. Maybe it's because he specializes in this. Raven would have taken 20 to 30 minutes for such a task. There really were levels to all of this. Fine. Start casting. As soon as I gave the order, Elvain closed his eyes. I could see his mouth move as if he were running a calculation in his mind. The other passengers, recognizing that he was entrusted with an important duty, all quieted down as well. So, what exactly is going on here? How could I explain this? Since I didn't have anything I could do while waiting for the teleport to pop, I decided to tell them everything I knew. There was a primordial spirit nearby. It was a rank 1 monster that could be found on the 9th floor, and one that was impossible to escape through physical means alone when you entered its range. What happens if we aren't able to teleport out at the right time? The thief carefully asked after hearing the entire explanation. I gave an honest answer. We will have to face the primordial spirit waiting for us at the center. The rank 1 monster. Why, are you scared to death already? Yes, but I don't plan on dying. Please tell me more about it. I'll need to know what it can do so I can plan either my escape or alternative actions. You're mentally stronger than I thought. I liked his mindset, so I gave a more detailed explanation about the primordial spirit. However, hearing this seemed to have only damaged his spirit. Physical attacks don't work against it. How can such a monster exist? That was what all rank 1 monsters were like. In the first place, the effects of Saturnus were absurd. The skill had a radius of a half mile, but it also applied the unbelievable status condition of immobile. Don't worry too much. We won't have any problems if the spell gets cast in time. So our lives are in that man's hands. Everyone looked at Elvain, but he was fully focused on casting the mass teleport spell in time. And so, time passed. We're sinking deeper and deeper. It was only up to my ankle at first, but the ground had reached my thighs already. The speed of the earth had accelerated as well. From a distance away, it would look as if an overflowing river were carrying the mud and silt from its riverbed. Be careful not to fall over. I can't do much. If you do, I warned. Yes, by the way, Sir Cutter is impressive. To show that much focus in a situation like this, I agree, his personality might be a little, but his skills truly are. Seeing Elvain focus so hard on completing his spell, our perspective of him started to change a little. But then, who's there? Is someone there? We heard an unfamiliar voice from the darkness. A desperate cry for help. Surprisingly, it wasn't just one voice. What do you mean? Who are you calling out to? No, I definitely heard someone there. You must have heard it wrong. Who would be in a place like this? Stop wasting your breath and think about how we're going to leave. I could confirm that. There were at least 3 people just by their voices. Who's there? Someone really is there. Please wait a second. After they said that, I could see a red flame float through the darkness toward us. It didn't look like magic. It had to be a spirit. Vwong. As our vision brightened, I could see 6 other adventurers being swept away by the earthen current, just like us. They definitely weren't near us from the start. Perhaps our currents coincidentally converged at this point. It might be out of place to do this now, but let us introduce ourselves. Hello, we are the survivors of the Illuma clan. Who are you? I am Bjorn, son of Yandel. I called back, Viscount Yandel. Ah, I did notice your stature. Then are those people with you? The Anabata clan. I am by myself due to some circumstances. These are friends I met not long ago. Ah, I see. It's great to see you. But do you, perhaps know what is happening here? How much do you know? Nothing. We don't even know where we are. That's why we were searching around, but our legs suddenly got stuck in the ground. Well, there wasn't too much information about the 9th floor out there, and the Eternal Hole was a hidden field as well. There was no way anyone would know about this place. 3 minutes. In 3 minutes, the 10 minutes promised to Elvain would be up. However, since the base number for the calculation was just our numbers, adding 6 more would definitely extend the calculation time. Pardon, could you talk a little louder? 3 minutes. In 3 minutes, the 10 minutes promised to Elvain would be up. However, since the base number for the calculation was just our numbers, adding 6 more would definitely extend the calculation time. Pardon, could you talk a little louder? I can't really hear. I'll give you 3 minutes. What do you mean by that? What do you think I meant by that? It means explain in 3 minutes. If you couldn't even understand that, you just failed the first interview question. What are you good at? They needed to prove that they deserved to survive.